It's my first time going live. This might be horrible, but we'll see. We're going to do a little bit of drawing. I guess I'll just go and see what happens. All right. So I've been working on my comic SPACECAT and also working on a role-playing game for SPACECAT. So part of this role-playing game is I'm designing some spaceships for the game. So I need to do some art for these. And so I think I'm going to do three things. I'm going to do some drawing, some sketching, and then ink the spaceship, and then maybe share a book or two at the end that I've been inspired by. So let's get going. So this is a total experiment. Never done this live before. Probably won't get anybody watching this. Might delete it afterwards, but we'll see what happens. So so if I'm drawing, I usually just kind of start warming up, usually drawing my character SPACECAT. And I've been trying to refine the design of SPACECAT for quite a while. And I remember, I've been drawing this character for years. And some of the first comics I ever did, I posted online. And I remember this amazing artist and actually creator of 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗖𝗧 and 𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗦. I posted my comic to a forum, and he wrote me back, copied back, and he got back to me. He did some drawovers, and he talked a little bit about how my structure, my underlying structure, was a little off, and how I might be able to improve my drawings if I worked on this form and structure. And I'll never forget that, and it's something I'm still working on, but I try to think about when I'm trying to take my drawings a little seriously. So, SPACECAT's head is basically a sphere, so I try to envision it as a sphere. Overlap is really important to give a sense of depth in your drawings. So having his ear behind his little tuft of hair and behind that line of his head helps. And then his other ear is usually in front slightly of that sphere, breaking that line. And I really just love the little ball eyes. For a long time, I tried to figure out how I could make some, more kind of cartoony eyes with the whites of the eye. And it worked okay, but there's just something about these little ball eyes that really worked for SPACECAT. And then, the mouth is usually, it could be all kinds of things, but it's always a fun experiment to figure out what his mouth's going to be like. And then trying to work on these shapes, I try to envision this, circle helmet ring that goes behind his head. And again, I'm creating more of these overlaps to kind of show what's kind of you're trying to create depth here, some element in front of the other. Same as here. These whiskers are in front. These would be more behind. I've lately been not connecting this line. I think that really helps a bit. Now, the body is where I can get a little more off in my structure because I get impatient. But, if I think about his pelvis as another sphere and his body is kind of this tube, and I know that he's going to have these other tube arms kind of coming off, these cylinders. I think about where his belt line is. And then I like that his costume can be it's a little baggy. There's folds in it. And then I always, any time you can create a line that shows form, it's a good idea, right? So with SPACECAT, I'm often trying to find these lines that can show the form, right? So when I say form, if you have a cylinder like this, these lines go around and they help define that shape. So on his arm, he has these kind of like connecting bits of cloth around there, and then he also has these kind of design elements on his sleeve. I want to try to make those a little curved to kind of show this form. And even when I'm making more details on his sleeve, I try to have these lines show this kind of direction, that this is a cylinder that's kind of coming at us. And that can continue this way. Another cylinder. So yeah, a lot of times just kind of doodling, warming up, trying different things, trying to break off that dust that's on me from not drawing. Trying to get loose with it. Yeah. Cool. All right. So one thing we got to do, we got to work on this SPACECAT project. So I need to ink this spaceship. So the spaceship started in my book, my role-playing game. I have the idea is that you can create four different classes of ship. This is kind of a rough idea of how that's going to work. And so I have these four types of ship: this fighter class, explorer class, shuttle class, and hauler class. And this is designed for the explorer class. So I started here with this doodle. And then I brought that into Procreate and did some iterations on it. And then printed this out, and now I'm going to ink it. So I have a couple different ways I could go about this. I really like Pentel pocket brush pens. Now I keep a couple of these because I put some tape on one because as the ink starts, when the ink's fresh, you have they basically take a cartridge, right? So this one is kind of running low, and when the ink is low, the line you can get a thinner line quality, while when they're new and fresh, see, this one's pretty new and fresh, the ink really flows out. It's harder to get that thin line, but it's also good for the really big inky brushy stuff. But I think what I'm going to try to do here is do some brush inking. So let's see if I can get that going. So I really like this particular ink. I got it from 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗧, and I always get a glass of water. And this is my favorite brush right now. Love this brush. Got it from 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗧, and use it all the time if I can. When I have patience to go for a real brush. So I usually just kind of dip it in the water first, and then my ink, and just kind of practice getting some lines that I like. One thing I like about this brush is that it holds a lot of ink. So once I get going, I don't have to keep dipping and dipping and dipping. But it also lets me get very thin lines. It takes a little bit of practice. Here we go. Let's go for it. Now, I might not be able to talk as much during this part as I concentrate. But one thing about printing this out is if I completely screw up, I can always start over. And with inking, I'm not always good at this, but the idea would be that you could, thinner lines might be where there's more light. Thicker lines might be where there's more shadow. So like underneath, bottom edges might have slightly thicker lines. And same with SPACECAT. I use these, I think they're called contour lines, but they're lines that help show the form of this shape. You can see this brush is holding a decent amount of ink. Haven't had to go back in there. All right, here we go. See if I can do this straight line with a brush. So one thing that's helpful with a pen or a brush is to kind of have your hand hover over that line and try to practice that movement. Not too bad, I guess. This cockpit here. So if anyone does watch this, no one is on right now. Maybe if they watch in the future. Let me know in the comments what you think of all this, if I should just stop or if there's something that you would like to learn about or hear about or get my take on. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you about what you like about art, things you're trying to learn, things you want to do with art. Because there's so much that can be done and created. Honestly, I think we need more people creating things instead of destroying things, breaking stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, I haven't gone back and dipped my brush again. Getting close. But much like that, what I mentioned with the Pentel brush, when your brush tip starts to get a little drier, you have a little more control over the detail. You get thinner, finer lines with your brush. So it could be a good time to go in and do some of those detail things that you might be a little more scared of. Oh, hey, somebody's here. Unfortunately, it's the first time doing this, and I have no idea how to view the comments right now. Got to figure that out. I need like another screen. But I'm making the spaceship for my SPACECAT role-playing game I'm working on. Thanks for being here. It's my absolutely first time going live on YouTube, so could be an adventure. So if you are interested, I was talking a little bit about drawing and SPACECAT and inking. I really like this brush. Got it at 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗧, like a Japanese brush. I'm trying to think of the name of it. What's the name? Anyway, it's been a while since I looked up the name, but I love I holds a lot of ink, allows me to get some good control. since you're here, I'm going to try to see if I can figure out how I can check out these comments. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm on my iPad on the side trying to figure out how I can view my comments here. Give me a second. I'll be right back to drawing. Just a second. All right, I think I figured it out. Cool. Actually met you many moons ago. Bought your books. Keep up. That's nice. Thanks so much. Yeah, this was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Had a quiet moment at the house, and it's like, oh, I want to try to do this sometime. This going live and drawing and seeing what happens. Plus, it's a good way to like force myself to sit down and draw. So the plan is here. The first 5 to 8 minutes, I was just doing some sketching, talking about drawing. And I figured I'd do some inking, and then at the end, I'd share maybe some art books or something that I like. Thanks for leaving that comment. It's awesome that you keep up with my emails. I always wonder if I'm annoying people. But thanks for picking up my books. I need to make more SPACECAT stuff. My latest projects I've been getting into these indie role-playing games. I found it's a really creative kind of little scene where people are making games, making art for their games. And it also, it's storytelling, but it's more kind of collaborative storytelling. So that's kind of cool. And that's been really intriguing. So I've been working on this SPACECAT role-playing game. I did a backer kit funding on it, and it's did really well. And I'm just this is like a rough draft. I'm editing it and working on it, and should be hopefully printing it in a few weeks if I'm lucky, but I got to finish some of the art for it. This is one of the spaceships for that. Yeah, I kind of thought about maybe trying to do these as kind of like lunch break things when I work from home for a few days a week, and maybe I could pop on for like 20-30 minutes during my lunch break, do some like a live stream thing, do some drawing. Hey, all right, 3 whole people. That's fun. Like, this is my very first time doing this live YouTube thing. Oh, this wing line is long. Scary. So really trying to use these kind of contour lines to kind of help me sell the form of this shape. Trying to work on this engineer. Yeah, again, really loving this brush. I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't had to re-dip the brush much. It holds a lot of ink, but still allows me to get some pretty good detail. Trying to use these contour lines here, give it some shape. Yeah, I was going to try to make this whole thing just like 20-30 minutes, but I'm actually having a lot of fun inking here, which is good. Honestly, this part of why I want to do this live thing was to get myself going. I was kind of stuck, knowing I needed to do it, feeling apprehensive of it. Felt like a big task, but once you get going on something, it's not so bad. Right, it's got these like blaster things here. So in the game, you can kind of pick one of 4 classes of spaceship, freighter type of thing. There's the shuttle, which is like the more general, all-around balanced ship. The fighter, which has a little more weapons, speed. The explorer, which is what this one is more about engines, and it's fast, but it's has a jump drive, allows you to go explore more. That's the idea, at least. And then there's the hauler class, which is a slower, more cargo based one. So anyway, this is one of 4 ships I have to draw, so I gotta get going on the other ones too. And I'm gonna be at this going to this Gamescom Canada show in Edmonton in June. And I really wanted to bring this game, like a printed version of the SPACECAT role-playing game. But I have a lot to do. Plus, I have all these backers that also want to see their game in the mailbox. So I gotta get that going for them. Check if there's any more comments here. Oh, cool. Hi. It's amazing. English seems great to me so far. I've always loved spacecraft stuff. Starcraft. So we should pre-order the tabletop miniature game. Excited to see some brush techniques. Oh, cool. Airbrush is fun. I've tried it. It's very hard, but give yourself some patience with it. Oh, cool. 𝗧𝗠𝗘𝗧𝗦 sable brush. I mean, this is a sable brush, I think. This brush is. Yeah, here we go. So I got from 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗦. This is when I found I had this, I wanted to go get some more. So this is my brush that I've been using. It's this mezzo brush, 𝗧𝗠𝗘𝗧 small, 𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗧. Got this from 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦. So the 𝗧𝗜𝗍 Cartoonist. It's got like a bunch of names, but it's a good brush. I've been using this one. I've basically inked every page of SPACECAT with it, and it's still going. Yeah, it's great. Cool. Some comments. I am probably older than you think. I am 47, and I have been really kind of into drawing since I've been into trying to figure out comics since I was in high school. So that was like 1997. But it's off and on. You just kind of keep going, and there'll be periods where you maybe won't draw. Sometimes you'll come back, pick it back up. Important thing is to not completely give up. And I've gotten better. I can always kick myself and say, like, oh, if I'd only practiced more, imagine how good I could be. But that doesn't really help too much unless it motivates you to do it more. But if it motivates you to stop, then that's no good. But I think just need to keep practicing. I mean, even in high school, though, everyone was trying to use these dip pens, and they were really hard for me. But some reason the brush seemed to work a little better. And also there were just artists like Jeff Smith who did these bone comics, and some others. They were really inspiring brushwork people and cartoonists, and that got me really excited about it, trying to do that. And it was a way to be a little different because everyone else wanted to do, either were using these ภิteograph pens, and I was trying those for a while, or those crow quill like dip pens. But the brush stuff, in some ways it lets you be a little freer. The energy that you get from a brush can be a little forgiving. You can be a little messier and it looks like you did it on purpose. Yeah, so sorry I didn't give any warning I was doing this today. I really just decided to try it out not too long before I turned it on. Trying to figure out what all this gack and detail is in here. Tubes and tech and things. Greebles. That's what we'd call them in Star Wars world. Right. Well, I don't want this to go too long. I'm pretty close to getting the basics done. Let me just finish this engine up. But I'd love to hear, if you're watching this now or in the comments later, let me know what you think. What are some things, I thought I like this idea of doing some drawing at first, and then working on a project like this, and then maybe sharing some art books or things that inspired me lately. Trying that as like a pattern. But let me know. I could do like little drawing lessons or something, but I don't want to be too pretentious. Be like, look at me, I can draw. We all have things we can learn. I'm still learning all the time. So I don't want to come off as this person who thinks they know the best way to learn how to draw. I'm happy to talk about anything like that. All right. So that's probably pretty good. I'll probably go in and might use a pen to do some more details, or might go back in. Always good. You got to make sure you don't let your brush stand too long. If like, really should go wash it out with soap right now, but I'm at least gonna rinse it with water. And what do you do for a living? Kind of job? Oh, I actually work in visual effects for movies and animation. I work for a company called Industrial Light and Magic, and I'm in the creature department, which is like we help make the characters, the rig the characters, and we do cloth and hair and flesh simulation to kind of help them come more alive. So I worked on lots of cool projects, but it's mostly a computer job. It's creative, but I also have always wanted to make comics since I was in high school. So this is kind of my thing I do as like a side deal. So my game, it was a backer kit project, and it had a month of funding, and it was very successful. And so my goal now is to finish the project and ship everything out. But ultimately there'll be like a PDF version, and I would say if you're interested, you could go to spacecatcomic.com or 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦.com, or any link that's in here. There's basically, I have a newsletter, Substack newsletter, and I'll be letting everyone know when it's available to buy, either in print or digitally, as a book, as a game. And hopefully if you follow me here on YouTube or whatever, I'll mention it at some point. But thanks for asking about that. Wanted to share some books. So lately I have been doing some SpaceCat art, getting really inspired by different artists. So this artist, 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗖𝗓, is an older, I would say like 60s, 70s sci-fi and space illustrator. I got this book used a long time ago, but he does these amazing paintings and murals and really fun, inspiring stuff, and really, really fun stuff. So for me, this stuff really gets my imagination going, because that's him there. And he did a lot of stuff for NASA. If you go to the Air and Space Museum, you can see some of his murals on the wall, which is rad. And I see some of these at different times, but I love some of the there's stuff for NASA, and that's just super cool. I want to show you the whole book, but I don't know if you can tell, this guy definitely has inspired a lot of my space drawing, space art, planets, background stuff. So you can look him up. Some cool stuff he did for 2001. If this book's available, I'll look and see if it's on, like, I can put a link to it or something to pick it up. But yeah, this stuff, the colors, the art, this is really inspiring stuff here. So yeah, I wanted to share this book, 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗖𝗓. Definitely check it out. Very cool stuff. And what's another book? Let's see. I can share here, and then I will call it a day. So this is a cool thing I got at the library. So I don't know if you've heard of this. There was a series called the Famous Artists Cartoon Course. So there were famous artists, and they they published these lessons. You could like basically mail in and get lessons online, and you would do assignments and then send them in, and they would critique them. And these were some of these cartoonists that were super popular at the time. You probably heard of Rube Goldberg. But some of these are amazing. One of them in particular, Willard Mullin. Maybe see why he's so inspiring. His work is very inky, very loose. He did a lot of Sports Illustration, like not Sports Illustrated, but like more like just very unfortunate, inappropriate stuff as well, of representing indigenous people in not a great way, unfortunately. So sorry about that. But I did want to share some of these very loose sketches, and this is basically this lesson 23 that he did is talking a little bit about how he works. Tries to start with these loose sketches, and it's very interesting stuff, and there's some cool nuggets. But I'm mostly inspired by these really loose drawings and some of his workflow. Yeah, like it really starts with just like a gesture, and then tries to find a character in there. And it really does inspires me to try to be looser with my own drawings. So this was pretty cool find. So this would be like your assignment for that. Anyway, the libraries have some old stuff sometimes that are pretty cool, and check them out. All right, well, I don't want to keep you all here too long. I'll show you one more book, and then I'll let you go. This is another thing I found at the library. It's a French comic called 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦, and this is super colorful and inspiring. And it's kind of a collaboration between two artists. So the backgrounds are done by one, and they're more painterly stuff that really reminds me of like Sleeping Beauty. And then the foreground characters are painted digitally, I believe. But it really is a beautiful book. Lots of fun color, inspiration, and design work here. So 𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗦. Try to find it. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for the few people that joined in and some of the comments. And I hope if you guys are watching this, leave more comments. Let me know if there's stuff you liked, you didn't like, and keep a lookout for some more SPACECAT stuff. Do this again. Thanks so much. That's cool. I will try. And I'll try to give some notice on my YouTube channel of this happening. But thanks for finding me. All right. See ya. Have a great day.